that growth is so uncomfortable in the moment, but it's so important because that's actually what helps you identify where the misalignment is. And you might not be able to snap your fingers and change it immediately, but it's giving you indicators of what you want more of or less of, or what you need to explore, or what might need to change for you.
Hello, everyone. This is Kathy Caprino, and welcome to my podcast, Finding Brave. I've created this show for everyone who longs to create something bold and brave in their life, to rise up, speak up, and stand up for who they are, and to reach their highest and biggest visions. Each week, I'll be speaking with inspiring guests from all walks of business, leadership, entertainment, the creative arts, and the entrepreneurial world. And they'll be sharing their intimate stories of finding brave and offer their best strategies for building your most rewarding, joyful, and meaningful life, business, and career. Hey everyone, Kathy here. Quick update. My 8-week live course, The Most Powerful You, is now open for spring registration. We start May 15th, and if you register by May 10th, you'll save $300 and get 9 amazing bonuses, including 1 month of free access to my digital career coaching tool, Kathy Caprino AI. Over 8 weeks, I'll personally coach you to build confidence, step into your leadership, speak up for what you want, job search and interview more successfully, connect with influential mentors, and finally make the career changes you've been dreaming about. You'll also be part of an amazing support community, both on our live calls and in our private Facebook group. Spots are limited, so don't wait. Visit mostpowerfulyou.com to claim your early bird savings and bonuses before May 10th. Let's make this the year your professional life transforms in the way you dream it to. See you there. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Finding Brave. Kathy Caprino here, levitating once again to be on the show with the amazing and inspiring Octavia Goredema. Octavia, thank you for being here once again.
Oh, thank you so much for the invitation. It's always a joy talking to you, Kathy.
I always learn so much from you and also feel so good from your energy, which is so beautiful. Thank you again. All right, people, we're talking about something that Octavia and I probably talk to people about pretty much every day. It is visibility starts with recognizing your value. And, I need to tell everybody, I need to read your bio. It's so illustrious. And I want to say, I'm ever surprised, and I'll have to say shocked, that so many people, and I will say, I think particularly women, but I do see this in the male clients I have, people are so resistant to being visible in every way we can imagine it.
Yes.
So I really hope that if you tuned into this is going to give you that energetic boost you need, and it's going to demystify visibility and branding, I hope. That's our hope. But let me tell you about Octavia. As an author, career coach, and founder and CEO of Fire Memos, Octavia's passion lies in enabling people to unlock their fullest potential at work. Octavia leads her Fire Memos team as they empower individuals to record and recognize their achievements with AI-powered check-ins. I cannot wait to hear how this is going and what people are saying that this allows for them. Can't wait. Fire Memos, is a Techstars portfolio company. She's also the author of the book, it's a great book, Prep, Push, Pivot, published by Wiley, and the host of 2 Audible Original series, which is truly an honor. Brand Yourself for Success, which you were so kind enough to give me a little shout out there. I'm so grateful. And How to Change Careers with Octavia Goredema. Check those out. We'll link to everything below. Originally from England, she was appointed, this blows me away, a member of the Order of the British Empire by Queen Elizabeth II, and is a dual U.S. and U.K. citizen, enjoying living in California, right by the beach, where you just had a walk last night, maybe. Octavia was an esteemed guest on this show with episode 248 on essential career strategies for underrepresented women, and we'll link to that below. That was really a game-changing conversation. So thank you again, my dear.
Thank you, Kathy.
Let's dig in here now.
Yes.
First of all, Can you explain why, in your mind and your work, why visibility starts with recognizing our value and why so many people struggle with that?
Yeah, I love this question, Kathy, because the stumbling block to this can often be self-promotion just feels so hard or cringy or icky.
Right,
And to
right,
get past that feeling, we really have to connect with ourselves. And before we can talk to anyone else, whether that's a coworker or our boss or our networks about the work that we're doing, we have to recognize our value ourselves. We have to recognize what underpins the work that we do day in and day out. We have to recognize the problems that we're solving. We have to recognize our own growth. We have to embrace the mistakes that we've made and what we've learned from them. And so, if there's a disconnect, and if you haven't fully embraced this yourself, and if you haven't fully respected and honored that journey and your progress, then it becomes really hard for you to share that, whether that's online or in conversations or on your resume or in an interview. And I know you know all about this. I've got your book right next to
Aw,
me.
thank you, dear. Thank
And
you.
if anyone is watching this, like on YouTube, can you see all the folded pages I
Oh, I
have,
see
like from
things.
like
Oh,
because this book is such a gem. But in this book, The Most Powerful You, for anyone who's listening and can't see me holding Kathy's wonderful book,
oh, thank
Kathy
you,
talks
Octavia.
about how important it is to start with recognizing your own accomplishments. And that's the thing. I think we become wired from a very early age to wait until someone gives us recognition,
That's right.
right? Until someone says, well done, Octavia. Oh, wow, Kathy, you did that.
Right.
And that's great when that happens. And often a lot of things move forward when we get that validation, whether it's a job offer or a promotion or an award or whatever it is.
Right.
But what underpins all of that is everything. That's the magic. It's the way you show up for yourself. It's the way you consistently keep moving forward. And that's where we can miss that magic when, especially if we feel like we're not where we want to be yet or we're a work in progress. So that's why I think this is such an important topic.
I could not agree more. And I would even go so far as to say it all emanates from that.
Yeah.
If we demean ourselves, diminish ourselves, say we're behind, nobody wants to fall on their face, and we all have. Nobody wants to be shamed in the workplace. Nobody wants to have an idea shot down. Nobody loves this. We're human beings. But I think for so many, what's missing is the resilience to say, wow,
Mhm.
that hurt. That is not what I signed up for to do today, to be humiliated in a meeting or to be passed over. I think the
Yes.
problem is where we punctuate that we end it there. I always say human beings only look at the tip of what's at the tip of their nose, not the
Mhm.
arc of the whole experience. That, okay, I learned
Yes.
something very valuable from that. But I'm interested, Octavia, since, as you said, we both live and breathe this, and I have my ideas about why people don't recognize their value. I didn't prep you for this. I never do for my poor guests. I just spring it on you. But
Yeah.
if you had to say three underlying reasons why people really don't see their value or their worth,
Yeah.
what do you, and I'm interested, did you always see your worth? Because I think I
No.
struggled to. I think I saw it and then I got a little slapped down. Don't be a braggart. I
Yeah.
don't like how this is looking. A little too confident there. But
Yes.
can you tell us a little bit about your journey and where you recognize this essential tenet?
Yeah, of course. And no, I definitely didn't always recognize my worth. And today I often have to be reminded, I have to coach myself or talk to others sometimes to reinforce certain things because we're all human. And I think that there are a couple of things to it. First of all, there can be things that we underestimate because they come naturally to us or they just seem obvious. It's like, well, or that's my job. right?
Right.
I'm doing what I'm
That's not a
supposed
talent,
to
that's a
do.
skill. I learned it in school. So
Yeah.
what? Yeah.
Yeah. Or it's just something that I do. I don't hold that much value in it because I'm focused on the things that are hard. I'm
Yes.
focused on the things I can't quite do yet, or that I
Right.
really want and I'm not doing yet. So that could be part of it. I
Right.
think there's also sometimes part of it that, well, shouldn't my work speak for itself? I just had a conversation along those lines yesterday with someone who I was coaching through an important conversation she needs to have with her boss. And she was just saying, I just wish that my work would stand alone for itself. And I had to remind her, your work does stand for itself. Your work is the most important thing. But also, it's important for you to use your voice and talk about what you want to do next, not just what you've accomplished as
Ooh,
well.
good point. Good point.
That's what matters. And you also have to remember when you do a good job, especially when you're on a team, the ripple effects of that are felt really broadly, right? And so it can be, and often leaders are focused on what isn't working. That's what they're there for. They're there to problem solve and to troubleshoot and to put out fires and to fix things. And so, because our energy is drawn along those ways in terms of the people we work alongside, but also for us ourselves, we're always thinking about what do I need to do next? We then
Mm,
underestimate the things that are working well, have worked well, we're moving through because we're always focused on the next. And then
mm,
sometimes there are societal or cultural lenses that impact that. I know myself, I felt the need to not shine too brightly
right.
often, and to dim my light sometimes,
Right.
not to be too ambitious or not to be too overly confident.
Right.
It's really interesting as a mother and parent. I have two teenagers, but I remember when my eldest was in kindergarten and I was able to get an afternoon off work to go and volunteer in her class.
Oh,
And
wow.
at the end of the day, I was like, how do you deal with that? And she was like, what, Mom? I was like, all those boys that are shouting loudly over you, dominating the attention of the teacher. And I don't want to put it completely, on
No,
gender
gender.
lines because
No.
it isn't, but it was a real eye-opener to me to
Wow.
just see how, certain classmates had no problem with using their voice and getting
Wow.
attention and reaching for what they wanted, and then others were much more subdued and much
Had she
quieter.
noticed that? Had she even noticed? Because we're the fish in the water, we don't see the water.
No, she had become conditioned to
I
so
should
many
step
things.
foot in a kindergarten soon, you know? I'm going to come and read, and then I'm going to watch everything, the dynamics. That's interesting. That is,
And that was now 10 years ago, but it really resonated with me. I was like, oh my goodness, because as an adult in workplaces, I can see those dynamics playing out in not the exact same way, not the
but
exact
very
same
similar.
behavior, but similar tendencies. And so I think the older we also get,
Mm,
the less we want to make a mistake, as you alluded to earlier. We
mm.
want to get things right. We want to do things well. And so it becomes sometimes even harder if we feel like we're working towards something to have the confidence to actually articulate what we're doing as we're doing it until we know that it's a done deal.
This is genius. I say this a lot, but I just want to insert this, Octavia, if I could.
Hmm.
Again, particularly with women, but I have a lot of male clients and they struggle, and often it's cultural and societal, how they were raised. Um, but I do want to say this. I have learned that if we can state what we've done as fact,
Hmm.
it is the energy of braggarty. People say to me, I don't want to sound like a braggart. That word, I'd be a millionaire if I had a dollar for every
Yeah.
time someone said I don't want to be sound like a braggart. I just want to give a quick tip. It's in my TEDx talk time to brave up. We'll link to it. But I give it to every client, which is this: sit quietly this weekend with a pad in front of you or a laptop, whatever you want, your device. And I want you to think about the 20 things you've done in your life that you are most proud of. Not
Hmm.
your mother, not your boss, not your spouse, you. And that could be I was 8 and I had a lemonade stand and I made $100 and I gave it to I don't care what it is. It's what makes you the most proud that you know you did, that no one could take away from you. A lot of people tell me, women in particular, but men too, well, I don't want to say that on LinkedIn. Why not? Well, someone may say I didn't do it. Well, so I say, did you do it or did you not do it? And
Yes.
they say, well, sometimes I just led the team. You didn't just lead it. Of course, you're not going to steal the credit from your team, but you strategically led it. You got the resources for it. You got the attention for it. You got the buy-in for it. So if you state it as a fact, like for me,
Yes.
one of them would be I had an 18-year corporate career, high level. So I've lived the challenges high level people live. Then I became a therapist, so I go more deeply than other coaches. So there's two other, but these are facts. And
They
I
are.
don't feel uncomfortable saying them because they're simply facts, similar to I have brown hair. Well, gray hair, but that's dyed. But anyway, too much information. But do you understand what I mean? It
Absolutely.
it's fact. It doesn't make me feel like I'm conceited. What do you think about that?
Oh, absolutely. It is so important to do. And the thing is, those facts start to fade over time, right?
There you go.
um, they do. The poignancy of them become less and less to us personally over time because often we think, oh, well, that was then, or to
Yes.
your point about LinkedIn, that doesn't perhaps have correlation to what I'm doing now. That doesn't even belong on my resume. That doesn't matter to anybody else. It matters to you because it shapes who you are. And there is so much that underpins us that might be invisible to someone else.
Oh, so
They
well
don't
said.
know your narrative. And I firmly believe personal branding starts with owning your narrative unapologetically and
Well said.
embracing it all and knowing that a LinkedIn profile or a personal website or a bio or a resume really is the tip of the iceberg. It's like the highlights, which is fantastic, but there is so much depth and resonance underneath that, which is uniquely yours. You know, as I said in my first book, Prep, Push, Pivot, your career is the most valuable and the most personal investment you will ever make. It belongs to you. It's a
Mm,
compounding investment. Whether you are leveraging every component part now doesn't matter. Those component parts all make you who you are. And we have to recognize
exciting.
our past, but also pay attention to our present.
I know I'm speaking to a genius when in one sentence there's 17 questions that come to mind. So I'm going to not give you 17, but I want to amplify and ask two things from that. The very first thing is I think that I learned in when I was a vice president, things weren't going well emotionally, that networking was hard because I didn't like who I was in that role or what I was doing. And I think for many people, they're in a career or a role or an organization or a plateau that makes them feel less than. And in that moment, again, we only look at the tip of our noses, they don't feel there's anything good to talk about because where they are in the moment is painful or less than. So hold that thought. I want to hear what you tell people about this. But the second thing is, I would say this, it's our trials and tribulations as well as our amazing accomplishments and accolades that make us who we are.
Yes.
And I always say, you are truly unlike anyone else on this planet. Yes, there are marketing managers and finance directors, but nobody's doing it like you with your mindset, with your history, your trajectory. But I think the challenge is people want to hide. They think it's a dirty little secret, the challenges they've had. And I think both
Yes.
you and I, Octavia, I mean, I publicize my challenges.
Yeah.
That I got laid off in a brutal way after 9/11, that I was sexually harassed, there was gender bias, there was hard stuff.
Yes.
Well, that I, got defensive in one very important meeting, and it was really kind of the kiss of death. Not don't get
Yeah.
defensive in front of the president who's criticizing your work. Doesn't go well. But these are part of who I am and what I learned from. So what
Yes.
I would suggest for everyone who's listening, Don't make those hard things your dirty little secret that you just keep inside and it erodes your self-love and self-trust. It's who you are. And the question is, how have you grown from it? How are you using it? What do you think about all that?
Yes, I was going to say, and you just said the word, it actually is growth, that discomfort that we might feel either in a role that doesn't feel aligned or a work relationship that isn't exactly what we want it to be, or just feeling that we're not using our fullest potential. That's something I felt at multiple points over
Right.
my career so far. Um, that growth is so uncomfortable in the moment, but it's so important because that's actually what helps you identify where the misalignment is. And you might not be able to snap your fingers and change it immediately, but it's giving you indicators. It's giving you indicators of what you want more of or less of, or what you need to explore, or what might need to change for you. And then ultimately, it's up to us to set our intentions in terms of how we do that. Not all of us can just quit a job without something
Right.
else to go to.
Right.
Not all of us can immediately change direction if that's something that we need to do, but we can start to take steps towards what we want more of.
Uh, I
Absolutely.
want you to repeat that, this part. To me, I'll say it, it's a spiritual concept that if we don't overly attach to outcomes that we think are essential, I need to rock this interview. Maybe you don't. Maybe this is not the role you really want, but how do you know? If we
Yes.
don't overly attach, then something that's coming at us that hurts or is embarrassing is what you're saying. It's a sign of misalignment.
Yes.
But most people, and I certainly was this way, I didn't see it that way. I saw it as a failure or wow, I
Yeah. A
bombed
pass
that
fail test.
interview. Right. I didn't even advance after the first conversation in that series of interviews. Yeah, well, you would have been miserable at that organization probably. So I hope folks you hear this in the spirit Octavia is offering it, which is I think the word is energy. Where you're using your highest energy, your most exciting energy, the resonance to say, is this hard thing really something I'm supposed to keep silent and feel shame about, or is it growth? Do you
Yes.
agree?
I completely agree. And also, it's not always easy to be transparent while we're growing. Sometimes we feel
Yeah,
we
we're
want to
licking our
just move the
wounds in the
bit.
corner.
Yeah,
Right.
we're licking our wounds and we have to take care of ourselves in that process.
Mm.
But it's so interesting when you do share, even if it's just something that happened yesterday or a week ago or a month ago or a year ago or a decade ago, whatever the time frame, there will be someone who needs to hear that now. That just happened to me this morning, right? Before I logged in to get ready for this podcast, I, posted a LinkedIn newsletter and someone commented, and I shared a story about
I
a
got to go
challenge
check
that
it
I'd
out.
had. Yes, I had a chat. Well, it's thanks to you that I'm doing this, but we'll get to that, Kathy. But I shared a challenge that I'd had and how I'd overcome it. And someone commented and said, "This is just what I needed to hear today." And so I replied to the comment, and then she left me a voice message, like on LinkedIn, to talk about it further. And I wasn't thinking yesterday when I was writing this newsletter about
Oh,
the impact that just one anecdote, might have on somebody. But it did. And that's someone who just happened to tell me. There are a lot of people who are observing what you do, whether it's in the workplace or looking at you from a distance, and they're learning from you. And it's really important to also remember that because even while we're trying to get through the day or where we want to be, there is someone who would love to be in the position that you're in or can learn from something that you've experienced because they're navigating something similar.
that's so beautiful. You know what it reminds me of in that job, that vice president job? And if I've said this a million times, people, please forgive me, episode 300 and whatever, I repeat. But I did not feel like a good leader because I was getting my rump kicked. I really did not feel like a role model. And so being laid off after 9/11, plus not really feeling my highest self, I was really hurting. And, several years later, I got on LinkedIn, and the very first recommendation, I still have it there, there it is, was from a lovely young woman who was not in my department, But as I remember it, she said, Kathy was always someone I admired as a leader I would want to be. I literally cried and put my head down on the desk because that recommendation healed years of pain.
Yes. And you didn't know at the time.
I
This
had no
person wasn't
idea.
in your immediate orbit, but she
I
was
had no
watching
idea
you.
she even knew, anything about how I operated and
Yes.
how generous to say that. So the
Yes.
whole point is look at the impact we're making that we don't know,
Yes.
positive and negative sometimes.
Yes.
We are role models, for whatever behavior. Number two, look at the impact of those words on me.
Hmm.
She healed a myriad of things that were really probably going to stay put with me inside that I was a bad leader.
Yeah. And you were not. But it's powerful that you actually were able to recognize that it wasn't until perhaps you heard that you were able to reconcile this.
Exactly. I mean, look
Yes.
what. So, what's the tip? Give a recommendation. I'm on LinkedIn constantly, and
Yes.
I look at what people are saying about that person, but also are they giving recommendations? If they have
Yes.
20, but they haven't given one, that's telling to me. There we go.
Yes.
That's an aside. All right, Octavia, can you tell us now? We're understanding what people get wrong about personal branding, that it's icky, that it's
Yes.
cringy. Why should I have to do it? This is impossible for me. I don't know what my talents are. I think, and if you're listening, write down the things that you're thinking when you hear this. I don't want to have to do this, or I have no idea what I'm good at, all of which can be helped by your book, by your Audible series, by my book, by a million other books. But what would you say are when someone's really in that situation? I don't want to be visible. I don't want to
Yes.
build a personal brand. Why do I have to do this? What are three steps that are really baby steps? We're not making you go from 0 to 100. What can they start with, Octavia? What can they do?
Well, the thing to remember also is you have a personal brand, whether you feel you're investing in it or not.
Whether you're
If,
aware of it or not, right?
yes, if you weren't in the room and someone had to describe who you are and what you do, people are going to say something. They might take a guess. If they don't know well, they'll make an assumption. So we have to pay attention to this, whether we feel like we want to or not, because once we start showing up in the world, we are going to be recognized for the work that we do, the skills that we have, our personality, how we make others feel. That all contributes it to it. So I think the first thing to do is to let go of any sense of pressure around that and really anchor your thoughts in what is authentic to you, because ultimately what you're doing is just embodying who you are and building trust around who you are and what you do.
Fascinating.
It really is that simple. And then I think it's also important to, if it's hard for you to wrap your own head around it, think about people, and it could be people that you know, or it could be people you observe from a distance. Who is it that you actually admire? And what is it about who they are and how they operate that resonates with you?
I love that. I believe that it would not be on your radar if it weren't a part of you.
Yes,
It wouldn't. You
exactly.
wouldn't notice it. Now, I have a
Exactly.
question or an exercise. I know you pretty well, and I think you have so many just beautiful traits and attributes that
Oh,
are a
thank
gift to
you.
this world. So I'm going to make you,
Yes.
if if you could articulate, I didn't prep you on this,
Hmm.
what you hope your personal brand is that people are getting
Yes.
when they interact with you. So everyone, I mean, you're an expert in this, so you've done this a
Yeah.
million times and you're helping other people do it, but sometimes it's a little hard for us to do it for ourselves.
Yeah.
Could you give us a few examples of those traits, those aspects of your brand that you hope and pray that people think of you as? Would you mind doing that?
Yeah. I hope that my work whatever form it comes in, whether it's directly with me or listening to something that I have written or reading something that I've read, makes you feel more confident about the work that you do and your impact.
I love it. And what can I, this is hard and I'm making you
Mhm.
do it because people
Yes.
struggle. If you could share a few characteristics of how you show up, like if I were to come to work with you, I know this is hard. I'm
Yes.
making you do it on the
Oh no,
fly. So
I love the question. Um, I'm endlessly curious about people.
that's you.
And I love seeing people's superpowers because we all have them. And often I'm talking to someone, they're not thinking they're sharing their superpowers with me, but they actually are.
Hmm,
I am seeing things in them that they might not fully see in themselves. And I think I don't know how I have that skill. It's just
you really
something
do.
I kind of have. And I think the other thing that I'm good at is I'm good at connecting people. Sometimes it's with others, but sometimes it's just connecting people with a thought or an
Wow.
opportunity or an idea. Um, and then watching how people sometimes take that and run with that if they choose to
Wow.
is incredible to me. And I'm just endlessly curious about people.
Wow.
And I get energized by that. I love seeing what it takes for people to do what they enjoy, the hard parts as well as the great parts of that.
Wow.
Um, and so, yes, that curiosity, I think, is what underpins
All right,
everything.
people, did you see what she did there? None of that is bragging. None of that is icky. None of that is cringing. This is just fact. There's one more I want to throw in the mix.
Oh, yes.
You are so naturally generous.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, you wrote me, here's my second Audible series. And by the way, I mentioned you in Chapter Blip. You
Yeah.
did not have to do that. You know, you're just endlessly generous. And I think that is a trait that is really going to elevate us in the world and make us feel loved and cared for and it comes back. And I know you never do it for that reason, but it is a trait of yours that stands out from my perspective.
Oh, I appreciate that, but you were generous to me. And just to give your listeners some context, I referenced briefly a few moments ago that I was writing my LinkedIn newsletter last night that I published before this podcast. But Kathy was the person that I turned to for advice
Oh
before
gosh.
I did this because I was like, I know I want to do this, but how did you get yours started? And do you have advice for me? And Kathy is as gracious in one-on-one as she is like in terms of the guests that she has on this podcast and in terms of what she shares in her book. You embody that. And
Mm,
so in my Audible original, for anyone listening, I talk about my own story of going from, oh, I don't know how to do this and feeling uncomfortable to getting advice from a role model, you, and then actually executing
I
on
did.
it.
And look
And
what
so
happened.
that was a very straightforward thing to do. But I accept your feedback because it is important to me I call it paying it forward and also just recognizing people, whether they've helped me or not. That's very, very important to me. I enjoy doing it. And
Wow.
so I never really think deeply about it. It's just
Beautiful.
something that I do.
I love it so much. And thank you so much for that comment. I see it also as, I interviewed Sean Acor years ago. What was his amazing TED talk that got millions and millions of views? The Happy Secret to Better Work. But he talks about keys to happiness. And one of them is every day engage in a random act of kindness. I mean, there were, I think, five, and I wrote about them.
Yeah.
But when we do that, I think sometimes life is such a slog, especially in uncertain times and turbulent times, and we're worried and we're anxious and we're really thinking very hard. We're bloodying our head against walls that we didn't expect we were going to have. But random acts of kindness unlock that feeling that we're not alone, that we connect with others, that we can help others. It lets us be grateful. These are ever important things right now, I think.
They
So
really, really are. And also to do those acts of kindness for ourselves
true that.
as well as doing them for others. I think it's really, really important to do that. We can be our own worst critics.
It's the truth. All right, give us, I'm keeping you here. Give us two more tips. If listeners came to you and said, "I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be visible. I don't know how to recognize my value, or I want to do that on LinkedIn. I understand there's 1.1 billion people there." What Give us two other tips that maybe people listening can say, "All right, I can do that. I can
Yeah.
do that."
Yeah.
What should
The
they do?
first thing I would say is I love what you shared about the advice that you give to the people that you coach to, spend a weekend, think about 20 things that you've done over the course of your life so far that you're really proud of. That's a really, really important foundation and anchor before you even start to think about anything you want to share publicly. The
True.
second tip I would say is keep records in real time. And that's the
Oh,
reason why I built Fire Memos, which is my new company and platform to make it easy to do that. But whether you use software, whether you use a journal, whether whatever you use, do that because you'll start to see impact and connect dots between things that you're working on, learning, problems that you're solving that actually are really powerful. And in the moment, you might not think, oh, I want to go and share that on social media. But actually, as you start to look at how that's growing or the impact of that, there could be insights and lessons that you actually do want to share with others, whether that's a conversation with a coworker or your manager, or whether that's something you actually want to write about on an online forum. And then the other thing
love
I
it.
would say is Google yourself.
Yeah, that's a fascinating experience, I'll tell
Yeah,
you.
Google yourself, and based on what pops up on the first page, right now I'm saying Google, and in the very near future it'll be about, using AI to go and ask AI about yourself. But Google yourself and what shows up there. And if it was someone who was trying to learn more about you, how does that reflect on what you would want them to see? Now, you're not going to immediately going to be able to change links that are available on the internet, but it might give you food for thought about if you wanted someone to find out information about you before meeting with you or after meeting with you, where would they go? What would they see? And what would they learn? And does that reflect what you would want
Love it.
someone to walk away knowing about you?
What a brilliant suggestion. Can I also throw in? So I built a digital clone of myself, Kathy Caprino AI,
Yes.
which was what an experience. As a former therapist, my mantra is do no harm, do no harm. So,
Yes.
my deepest nightmare would be that the clone says, "Sure, quit your job. I know you don't have any, not that it ever would. And thank goodness it's been trained on 2.5 million words I've written. I'm so proud of that. But the funny thing is, I literally go to my own clone and ask it for help. So today, a client said, "What are all the ways that you generate business?" And I could start jotting them down, but kind of like your fire memos, it's nice to have things right when you need them, not have to
Yeah.
excavate them. So I went to my clone
Love
and
it.
I said, I wrote you. So tell
Yeah.
me
Yeah. Tell
and it
me.
spewed out 20 ways that I
I
do it.
love it.
But the point is, not everyone is going to build their own digital, tool. I get it. But what you've just shared is so important because we, the world, and the online world is amassing information about us,
Yes.
sometimes much of which we're not aware of.
Yes. So take a look. And then you don't have to be on every social media
Mm,
platform. You might not choose to want to create a replica of yourself, but there could be things that you're like, actually, this is where I show up and I can be intentional about how I show up there, whether that's, on one particular profile, whether that's taking the step to create a personal website, even if it's just one page, whatever it is, you can really own it.
mm.
And it actually doesn't take a lot to do that, but the ripple effects can be extraordinary. And so it's an investment that you can make in yourself that you might think about maybe in update once a year or twice a year if there's a lot happening for you. And then it does the work for you.
Oh, it's beautiful. And the word that comes to mind, and then I know I have to let you go, is intentionality here. I had Finney
Yes.
and Kelly on my podcast a while ago, and his whole world is intentionality. But I think that the more intentional we can be about who we want to be, because who we want to be is really who we are in the making. We
Yes.
may be many steps away right now in the way we just behave to that person. Forgive yourself, love yourself, but the more intentional we can be, I want to have this conversation in a loving way, even though it's difficult. The more it will be reflected to other people and online and in terms of the energy you're putting out in the world. And I really think that visibility is energy. That
I agree. And also, I would underscore if you are investing in social media profiles, it's not about likes and it's not about the number of followers that you have. It's actually about the authenticity of what you share. Because even if there's just one person, and that person might not even comment or like, but they can absorb, there will be somebody who benefits from what you have to share. So please don't feel that the measure of any form of success is on a metric that was created by people who actually just want engagement for their platform.
is
That's not
such,
what the measure of success is.
what a beautiful point. What would we leave people with? What would you say? Here's the measure of success that is probably most valuable and productive for you. What would you say?
The measure of success is actually taking the time to privately recognize your progress and to honor that and to celebrate that and to do that before you have a conversation about your performance with a manager, before you post anything. Actually, hold that as a habit that you do regularly. And on tough days, when you feel you're not winning and nothing is going the way you want it to, go back and look at that list and remember.
How beautiful. And not that I always need to have the last word, but I really believe this. When you do this for yourself, you cannot not do it for others.
Yes.
Who we are to ourselves is who we are to others. So if you're sitting there going, oh, it's all about me and my wins, no, it isn't. The more you love yourself, the more you can support and uplift others. That's just how it goes. Where
Yes,
do
it's
we, I
positive
could,
energy.
it is where I could talk to you for hours, Octavia. Honestly, if I feel like I was swimming in the ocean just listening to you, where do we soak up everything? Where do we get your gorgeous newsletter? And where do we go? Where do we send people?
The best place is my website, octaviagoredema.com.
Perfect. And LinkedIn, your how many
Yes.
episodes, how many issues are you on your LinkedIn newsletter now?
I think it was number 46 this
Look
morning,
at
I
you.
think. Yes,
Weekly,
yes,
weekly, you've done
yes,
it.
yes,
And what
yes,
did I tell
yes.
you? What did I tell you
Um,
in a nutshell to do? Did I say
yeah, I
go for it?
think you, of course, said go for it, but I think I was really overthinking about how will I keep the momentum going and how would I do it? And you just gave me the encouragement to just get started. And you told me about, the flow and structure that you have. And I created a version of my own. And
Wow.
it was the overthinking, as with most things, before we get started. And then it was the sticking with it while it
Wow.
still felt uncomfortable,
Wow.
and then it becomes a new habit. And it's
And there
actually
you
one
are.
that I truly enjoy. It gives me the opportunity to actually stop and also think about things. Whereas I'm moving so quickly, now it gives me an extra point in the week to actually stop and think and do what I love, which is right.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear it. All right, people, you've got your marching orders. Check out Octavia's work, her website, her LinkedIn newsletter. And you know what? Wherever you see this and Fire Memos, check out Fire Memos. Leave us a comment if you would be so kind. What'd you get out of this? What's a challenge? What's your visibility challenge? We would so love to help you on your journey. Octavia, come back next week, will you? It's
Oh,
so
thank you
great to
so
have
much for
you.
having me. It's been
So
so
much
much
fun.
fun.
Thank you, my dear. All right, everybody. We are wishing you a wonderful Finding Brave 2 weeks and let us hear from you. We so appreciate you being in our community. Have a great few weeks. Bye. Hey, folks, Kathy here. Are you ready for a big positive shift in how you're working and what you're achieving today in your career? Let's make that happen for you. While you might know me best as a podcast host and a writer, a key focus in my work is helping women experience greater success and achieve their biggest goals in the quickest, most effective way possible. In my 6-session career and leadership breakthrough one-on-one coaching program, I help women get what they want most, which includes more confidence, impact, advancement, financial reward, and fulfillment. I've worked with over 20,000 women across 6 continents, and before that, I served as a therapist, and before that, I was a corporate VP, managing multi-million-dollar budgets and global initiatives. I bring all of that experience to our work together, helping you build a new chapter that aligns with who you really are and what you're ready to create. Check out kathycaprino.com/career breakthrough, and I hope you'll register now. I'd love to support you. Thanks so much for joining us today. And please don't forget to check out findingbrave.org for more programs, resources, and tips. And tune in next time for your weekly dose of Finding Brave.